Dan, it has been so cool this morning to actually have the opportunity to go into the Hall of Fame here right next to Great American Ballpark, because as soon as you walk in, you take a left and immediately you see all of this Pete Rose memorabilia. And what I love too is it kind of goes through the different eras of him, right? Talks about Charlie Hustle, talks about the fact even after he released this book called Pete Rose, My Story, and then just along with kind of the sentiment, what he meant to Cincinnati, what he meant to the Reds organization. And he was truly, it seems like, a transcendent player. Anywhere that you look, whatever kind of time period, it seems like number 14 kind of always stood then at the front. Again, breaking records left and right. But we do know that obviously it's not all good when it comes to Pete Rose. When you're talking about Pete Rose, it also comes with a slice of controversy, right? The lifetime ban and the like. So it was actually, when I was doing a little bit of deep diving on this yesterday, it was back in 1989. I'm sure maybe a lot of folks at home actually probably remember when all this happened. Let's call it a scandal when that happened. Back in August of '89, that is when Rose was given a lifetime ban from baseball because they had determined that Rose gambled on games while he played for and managed the Reds, and then also betting on his own team. So again, that kind of became the dark cloud over his legacy, at least in the early 1990s. We know, too, this was new to me, but he pled guilty to 2 charges of filing false income tax returns. He was sentenced to 5 months in a minimum federal security prison. I found that fascinating because, for a lot of people like me, we of course knew the name, we knew the legacy, but to know all of those details and kind of truly how sordid they became, especially after he was, convicted of that with the lifetime ban. Last year, though, on the Morning Extra, we were able to have this guy on, this author. Keith O'Brien is his name. He wrote the book called Charlie Hustle. He sat down with Pete Rose for 27 hours. He sat down with Pete Rose in his own home, talked to him about what happened and also how he wants to be defined for Cincinnatians, because basically you can kind of take Pete Rose and interpret him any way that you want. I want you to take a listen now to what Keith O'Brien.
Pete Rose is a bit like a Rorschach test. Everybody can see in him whatever they want to see. If you want to see the story of hard work and determination and how that can change your life, you can find that in Pete Rose. If you want to see in his story what a fawning sports media can create, how we can put players and athletes on pedestals that perhaps they do not deserve, you can find that in the story of Pete Rose. I think Pete will be all those things for eternity.
Yeah, and you know what I like? My interpretation of Pete Rose, for me, is the grit and the grind. And I've literally just thought of that as Keith O'Brien was talking there. The grit and the grind, I think he represented that in the perfect way again, and really continued his legacy right here in Cincinnati. Coming up, though, at 7 o'clock, we're going to be talking more about the president, the fact that President Donald Trump just last month, he tweeted out possibly pardoning Pete Rose. Again, and this happened, I think, in late February. So we're going to be talking about the update with that. Let's though send this now into Catherine this morning. Catherine, we have moved inside purposefully. I don't have any gloves on anymore. It feels great inside, but outdoors it's still a little chilly, especially if you're not moving around.
That's right. And like you mentioned, if you're not moving around and you don't have the proper gear